Hi, hello everyone. Welcome back to my channel. We are back with the glossary of legal terms. The first term today is interpleader. Interpleader is a procedural remedy used when multiple parties claim the same property or funds held by a neutral third party. The stakeholder deposits the disputed asset with a court and asks the court to determine rightful ownership. This prevents multiple liability or inconsistent obligations for the stakeholder. Interpleader promotes efficiency by consolidating competing claims into a single proceeding. Courts grant the funds or property to the rightful claimant after hearing all the parties. The next phrase is abandonment of action. Abandonment of action occurs when a party voluntarily withdraws or ceases to pursue a legal case before it reaches a judgment. It may happen due to settlement, loss of interest, or strategic reasons. Once an action is abandoned, the court usually treats it as if it was never filed unless the law provides otherwise. Abandonment may prevent the same party from refiling the same claim, depending on jurisdictional rules. It is distinct from dismissal, as abandonment is typically initiated by the plaintiff or petitioner rather than the court. The next phrase is interim order. An interim order is a type of interlocutory order issued to govern parties' conduct before the final judicial decision. It may maintain current arrangements such as assets preservation or procedural deadlines until the court can adjudicate fully. Interim orders are issued when delay would cause irreparable harm or prejudice. They ensure fairness and prevent enforcement gaps during litigation. Such orders remain in effect only until the final resolution or further modification. The next phrase is interlocutory application or interlocutory order or decree. An interlocutory proceeding is a temporary application or order made during the pendency of a suit addressing procedural or collateral issues. Unlike final orders, interlocutory decisions do not resolve the main dispute. Examples include interim injunctions, discovery proceedings, or temporary custody orders. These are essential for preserving rights and maintaining the status quo before full hearing. Appeals from interlocutory orders may be limited or require leave of courts depending on jurisdiction. The next term is abatement. Abatement refers to the suspension or termination of legal proceedings due to certain circumstances such as the death of a party or procedural defects. It can also mean the reduction or elimination of a legal right, claim, or nuisance. In a criminal law, abatement may refer to the discontinuation of a prosecution due to a technical reason. Civil abatement may occur if a claim is defective, such as improper service or lack of jurisdiction. Abatement does not address the merits of the case. It merely halts proceedings until the issue causing it is resolved. The next phrase is interstate commerce. Interstate commerce refers to trade, business transactions or transport crossing state lines within a federal system. Regulation of interstate commerce is often reserved for federal legislative authority. Courts interpret the scope of interstate commerce power to determine the validity of federal laws affecting economic activity. This concept plays a central role in a constitutional law and federal-state relations. Limits of interstate commerce power are frequently litigated in cases involving commerce regulations, taxation, and civil rights enforcement. The next term is intervene or intervention. Intervention is a procedural mechanism that allows a third party within an interest in an ongoing case to join as a party. A petitioner must show a direct legal interest and that intervention will not unduly prejudice existing parties. Once granted, the intervener may present their facts and their legal arguments to protect their rights. Intervention fosters inclusive adjudication and avoids multiplicity of lawsuits. Courts grant or deny it based on timing, interest, and a procedural fairness. The next phrase is intervening cause. An intervening cause is an event occurring after a defendant's act that breaks the causal chain to harm, thereby relieving the defendant from liability. If the intervening act was unforeseeable and sufficient of itself, the defendant's initial conduct may not be legally responsible. Determining intervening cause involves foreseeability and a directness of harm. The concept clarifies responsibility and prevents undue attribution of liability. It often appears in negligence and accident compensation contexts. The next term, intestate or intestacy or intestate succession. A person dies intestate when they die without leaving a valid will. Intestate succession laws dictate how the estate is distributed among surviving relatives. Typically, spouses and children receive a priority followed by other kin under statutory schemes. An administrator, rather than an executor named in a will, manages distribution and pays debts. Intestacy ensures orderly transfer of property, even absent a testamentary direction. The next term is intoxicate or intoxication in the legal context. Intoxication refers to impairment from alcohol or controlled substance affecting cognition and behavior. Voluntary intoxication may affect a criminal liability if it prevents a formation of intent, though not always a valid defense. Involuntary intoxication, such as unknowingly consuming a substance, may negate a criminal responsibility entirely. Many jurisdictions treat intoxication as mitigating in sentencing rather than exculpatory. Intoxication standards vary by statute, especially in DUI or DWI, that means driving under the influence or driving while intoxicated, or public disorder and a violent crime context. The next term is insanity or insanity defense. The insanity defense asserts that due to mental disease or defect, a defendant lacked a capacity to understand the wrongfulness of their act or to conform behavior to legal standards. Legal standards vary. Some use the McNaughton rule, others include a substantial capacity test or irresistible impulse doctrines. A successful defense leads to verdicts like a not guilty by reason of insanity, often resulting in psychiatric treatment rather than prison. The defense balances criminal culpability with mental health considerations. Courts require expert testimony and procedural safeguards in such cases. The next term is abduction. Abduction is the unlawful taking or carrying away of a person by force, threat, or deception, often with the intent to detain or coerce. It is commonly applied in criminal law in cases of kidnapping or child snatching. Abduction does not necessarily require the victim to be moved over a long distance. Any unlawful detention can qualify. The act is considered a serious offense due to the potential harm and a violation of personal liberty. Legal professions often distinguish between abduction for ransom, marriage, or other criminal purposes. The next phrase is insider trading. Insider trading involves buying or selling securities based on material non-public information obtained through a fiduciary or confidential relationship. It undermines market integrity and is prohibited by securities laws. Penalties can include fines, disgorgement, and imprisonment. Regulators monitor trading patterns and investigate suspicious transactions. The legal principle is that all investors deserve fair access to material information affecting investment decisions. The next phrase is interpretation clause. An interpretation clause in a statute or a contract defines a key terms and word usage for clarity throughout the document. It helps avoid ambiguity and conflicting interpretations in later provisions. Courts give substantial weight to such clauses when construing language. Proper drafting ensures consistent meaning and legal enforceability. Misconstruction of terms often leads to litigation over parties' rights and obligations. The next term is use. Roman and civil law terms. Use is the Latin term for law or legal right and forms the root of numerous legal doctrines in civil law traditions, such as jus hereditatis, that means right of inheritance, or jus in rem, that means right enforceable against the world. Each use term specifies a particular legal entitlement based on Roman jurisprudence. Understanding these helps map civil law concepts to modern equivalents. These terms remain foundational in a comparative law, codifications, and a right-based analysis. Mastery of use terms enriches legal tradition and interpretation. The next phrase is illicit argument, illicit or argumentative fallacy. In a legal logic and statutory interpretation, an illicit argument is one that draws invalid inferences from premises such as illicit conversion or transference in syllogisms. Illicit arguments blur distinctions between quantity or distribution improperly. Courts disregard arguments built on illicit logical structure. Legal arguments rely on valid reasoning, major premise, minor premise, conclusion, etc. without illicit steps. Spotting illicit fallacies strengthens legal reasoning and clarity.